Amitakiapi, Leampe Tuwashte. Welcome to the ICT Newscast. I'm Shirley Snavy. Native communities and tribes are stepping up, helping to fight the fires affecting the Los Angeles area and its people. Daniel Herrera has the latest.
Anybody that's on any of these fires hasn't seen anything like this in their career.
Multiple wildfires continue to ravage the Los Angeles area, displacing thousands and killing at least 24 people. Firefighting crews from at least 5 tribal nations are on the ground in Los Angeles. They're helping battle the most destructive fires in Southern California history and lending support for residents impacted by the unprecedented wildfires. Among the tribal nations sending fire crews are the Seminole Band of Mission Indians, the Karuk Tribe, the Klamath tribes in Oregon, the Navajo Nation, and Montana's Blackfeet Nation. Other tribes are offering personal support, and the Pechanga tribe is contributing $500,000 to help fire victims. That's in conjunction with the Los Angeles Rams Foundation. Rod Mendez, fire chief of the Karuk tribe, says it's their job to save lives.
As a fire department, our job is just to go out there and protect lives. We want to make sure that we can do the best job we can possibly do down there for those folks that are impacted by this disaster.
Every year, the Santa Ana winds hit Southern California, and firefighters are prepared for the wildfires caused by them. Keith Alexander, the Seminole Fire Department chief, says this year is different.
The only thing that really makes this more uncommon is just the amount of devastation and the amount of fires raging out of control all at the same time within a relatively, close proximity of each other.
The Weather Service issued a rare warning that the winds combined with severely dry conditions created a, quote, particularly dangerous situation. But the danger is not solely due to weather conditions, says local tribal leaders. Matthew Teltemez is a biologist with the Kits Nation, a state-recognized tribe in the Los Angeles basin. He said the catastrophe was decades in the making.
The wildfires right now are an example of how our lands have been kind of left to create a fuel capacity. And so now we're seeing the effects of allowing the lands to have a bunch of, referred to as flash fuels or non-native vegetation that was never part of our landscape of the past, but now has been incorporated and now is the fuel that causes these huge crown fires, these extraordinarily catastrophic fires.
Andrew Salas, the tribe's chairman, says this is a sign.
What you're seeing here is that sign. There's a disconnection between the Creator and humanity here on Earth.
As of January 15th, firefighters are still battling 3 wildfires which have burned more than 38,600 acres. The Palisades fire is currently at 19% containment, the Eaton fire at 45% containment, and the Hearst fire at 97% contained. From the ancestral homelands of the Alcamel Altam and Peeposh, Daniel Herrera Carbajal.
After 4 years of shaping policies as Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs, Bryan Nuland reflects on his work and its impact on Indian country.
I'm filled with gratitude.
Before taking on his current role, Nuland was a tribal official and elected to leadership at Bay Mills Indian Community in Michigan. He joined Interior's Indian Affairs leadership in the summer of 2021. Nuland helped to lead one of the department's more ambitious goals.
Ani, Nibana Mikana Bamose Indigenous, Mayangandoden. I want to thank the members of our team here at the department.
Carrying out the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative.
That's probably the most meaningful work that I've ever done, and it may be the most meaningful work that I ever do. There was a huge team involved in this, and most of the people doing this work were Native. As we were helping to, account for these awful things and our history, and to heal, we were also learning about and accounting for the awful things in our own family's history. Because a lot of these things were never spoken of in my family, like a lot of houses across Indian country. So I found a part of myself and a part of my family in doing this work. It was also very taxing to take on, the emotional weight, but we all felt the responsibility of it, that if we didn't get this right, that it may never get done.
He had a unique experience in his role. Nuland is the only one to have worked with an Indigenous Interior Secretary. He was grateful and knew how meaningful it was.
I never took it for granted. That when she and I would meet in her office, for example, that every time we met, we were making history together because it had never been done like that before.
The Trump administration will appoint a new Interior Secretary and a new Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs. It's likely that North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum will succeed Holland. As for the new Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs, it's still unknown. But Nuland has advice for the incoming Assistant Secretary.
Listen to the folks here. They've got a lot of experience. And listen to people in Indian country. It's really easy to come here and be isolated and to lose touch with the everyday experiences of people in tribal communities, people who have to haul water, or people who have to go to fish camp and can salmon for their food in the winter, or people who are crowded into homes with multiple generations. It's easy to fall out of touch with that living here in Washington, D.C. And so it's important to be on the ground in communities, places where government officials don't often visit, and to just listen.
President-elect Donald Trump will take over after the inauguration.
Including Native Americans.
Monday will be Holland's last day as Interior Secretary, along with many other political appointees. In Washington, D.C., Polly Denetclaw for ICT.
A powerful Indigenous story is headed to the Sundance Film Festival. Tiger, by Cherokee and Kiowa filmmaker Loren Waters, shares a family's journey of healing and strength. Let's watch part of the trailer.
Our art helped me survive.
Siona God, Loren Waters, Dawado. Hi everyone, my name is Loren Waters. I'm a Cherokee Nation and Kiowa tribal filmmaker based in Tulsa, Oklahoma on the Muskogee Creek Nation Reservation, and I am the director of Tiger, which is premiering at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival. Tiger is a short documentary about Dana Tiger, her family, and the revitalization of the iconic Tiger t-shirt business. So this film follows Dana through an experimental and dreamy way of her grief, and also how she finds just resilience through her art and surviving through many things that have happened to her and her family. Jerome Tiger was her father, who is a very renowned artistic painter and sculptor. He passed away when she was 5 years old. So that, really inspired the start of the Tiger Art Gallery, which is where the t-shirt business came out of as well. This film is definitely more than just about the t-shirts, but, I think that is a symbol of the culture and the art that everyone knows, and speaks to this story. And I think that, with Dana's father passing when she was young, when she was 5 years old, and then her family starting this business, they were able to sustain themselves and be really successful just through their art, which was very rare at the time in the 80s. And then her brother, also was tragically murdered. And we explore, her and her family's journey through those events, while the t-shirt business being something that is foundational to who they are, and then returning to that, which is really special.
This is Loren Waters' third short doc. She's well known in the Oklahoma film community. She made the Forbes magazine's 30 Under 30 list.
Learning that I was on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list in the media category was definitely a shocker when I woke up and got an email congratulating me. But I was I'm just honored, and I hope that this recognition really gives our community a boost, and just showing that being able to work on these projects like Res Dogs and Fancy Dance allows community members to shine in the best way. And that's really what this award and recognition is about for me. So I was the background casting director for Reservation Dogs season 2 and 3, and also the feature film Fancy Dance, which is on Apple TV Plus right now if you haven't seen it. So I love doing the background casting because it very much immerses me into the community. And that's actually how I met Dana Tiger originally, was through casting her in Reservation Dogs. And we just became really close from there. Documentary films are a way for us to dive into the human experience and highlight the authentic nature of who we are as Indigenous people. And I think especially with what Tiger does so well is that we are able to highlight what I think a lot of people who are non-Native as well can relate to, about grief and family and things that they've been through. And I just feel like it's such a powerful tool to create change and to create emotion that inspires people to take action somehow. So I think that documentaries will always continue to have that power. And I think what's important is that we ensure that we are not causing harm on our communities by approaching it in the most intentional way, which is what I try to do in my work with having a relationship with the folks that I'm telling stories about, and ensuring that after the film is made, that there is some sort of positive impact tied to the films. I'm actually wearing a Tiger right now.
Tiger premieres January 25th in Park City. Online passes start January 30th at sundance.org. For ICT, I'm Shirley Snavy. New Mexico has made history. For the first time, women are the majority in the state legislature. Paris Weiss speaks with Native Representative Angel Charlie about this milestone.
Angel Charlie, you recently won your seat in the New Mexico legislature for District 30. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah. The fight was really during the primary, but in the general election, I was unopposed. So it was a lot of work to get through the primary, but the general was, it couldn't have gone any better.
Well, it is a huge feat still, considering majority of the seats in the upcoming New Mexico legislature are women. This is the largest female legislative majority in U.S. history. What does it mean to be a part of that?
Yeah, I mean, how often do any of us get to make history in these kinds of ways? So I'm not taking it lightly. And I'm really excited to be able to do this work with the other women that are coming in the legislature and the women who have been there. I think that when we're represented in office and when in these spaces where decisions are being made, we have policy that meets the needs of families, especially, and of communities. I really believe that when Indigenous women rise, we bring our communities with us and all of our issues and our solutions, and we're closest to a lot of the problems. So I'm so excited to be doing this on behalf of my district, but also the state and our tribal communities.
All the more reason to have constituents, which are the people who reside in that district, to reach out to their legislators. Can you tell us a little bit about other legislators in this upcoming legislature for New Mexico?
Yeah, so I'm not the only Indigenous woman who won their election. I'm really excited about some of the other Native legislators who are coming in. One who I'm really excited about is Michelle Paulina Beta, who won her seat, House District 69 in New Mexico. And our districts actually overlap each other. So for several Pueblos and Navajo communities, this is going to be the first time we have Native women or Native people representing us. And so that's Isleta Pueblo, Alamo, a Navajo community, Acoma and Laguna Pueblos are all going to have Native representation this year in both the House and the Senate.
And that's even more of a reason for constituents to reach out and contact their legislators.
That's right. Absolutely. That's right. What makes New Mexico, I think, really unique is the amount of access that we have to our legislators. But even if you're not in New Mexico, such an important part of upholding democracy is representation. And decision makers, they want to hear from their constituents. And a lot of times they're making decisions based on the stories that are told and the experiences of people who are calling and advocating for what's important to them. So absolutely, I would encourage people to contact and be in relationship with the people who are making decisions on behalf of them.
Can you tell us, for those who are not as familiar, what some of your duties now will be as a legislator and the responsibilities you'll have?
Yeah, so representing us on the legislative side, there's two houses, right? There's the House side, and then there's the Senate side, and pieces of legislation come in both of these houses and then cross over into the other respective house. And so at the end of the day, though, this is about making laws and making policies that affect the lives of everyday New Mexicans.
What issues do you look forward to tackling in your new role when it comes to legislation?
Yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations with constituents across the district in New Mexico, and the issues that are important to them are the issues that I ran on. The first being the economy. I know I'm really interested in increasing the minimum wage for constituents in New Mexico. Another issue that was important to me during my run was environmental protections and climate justice. And I'm really excited to see where we can move the needle forward for New Mexico. But my background is all in public safety. So I ran an organization called the Coalition to Stop Violence Against Native Women. I'm really honored to be able to be in a position to make decisions around resourcing things like domestic violence shelters or survivor services, but also initiatives around murdered and missing Indigenous relatives has been really close to the work that I've done for years. And so to be in a position where I'm making decisions about the resources that are allocated to address these issues is something that it's a responsibility that I don't take lightly.
What powers do legislators have to preserve and protect laws in place? And how do you see the upcoming Trump administration impacting your role?
Yeah, in New Mexico, we have a really strong history of protecting the most vulnerable. One of the issues that was important to me while I was running was protection of reproductive care and abortion access. It's something that's preserved in New Mexico and is protected and is invested in. And this issue was still central while I was running because it's only protected so long as we have people who are willing to protect that and make sure that that women, gender expansive people have access to this type of health care. And so when I'm thinking about what does a Trump administration mean for me in this new role, I think of it as for states, we're thinking about state rights and how we protect ourselves sometimes from the federal government. We saw it with the challenges to the Indian Child Welfare Act, and several years ago, I was a part of a cohort. There was 4 of our organizations who came together to codify the Indian Child Welfare Act into a state law so that if anything happened to it on the federal front, that it was still a law and policy that our families could access. So I see that as the potential of what's ahead.
Angel Charlie, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to what you do next.
Thank you, Paris.
Climate change has a huge impact on native lands, but how does it impact our health? Last Friday, I checked in with epidemiologist Dean Seneca. Happy New Year, Dean Seneca. Thanks for joining us on the ICT Newscast.
Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year.
I want to talk to you about what's going on in Indian country as far as our health is concerned. But I first want to talk about the value of getting a flu shot because you have the flu.
Yes, I do. So, the flu shot is very protective. I guess getting the flu. Ray believes strongly that our elders, especially those with pre-existing conditions, should definitely consider getting the flu shot because it is very, very protective. And unfortunately, I didn't, and here I have the flu. So, I'm learning from this mistake.
We talked before Christmas about pneumonia, and you said that, and my doctors confirmed from the Ponca Health Clinic that pneumonia is rampant. And she's seeing many, many cases of pneumonia.
Pneumonia is really, really high. And, there's so all of the influenza viruses and all of the respiratory illnesses are very high right now. And they're all past epidemic proportions. The big 3, flu, COVID-19, and RSV, are extremely high right now. We are in the midst of it, and it's getting ugly out there, folks. I will say that. And what is the difference between pneumonia and walking pneumonia? Primarily, walking pneumonia, the symptoms of having pneumonia are very mild, and you don't have a fever. And that's the big difference right there, is that you don't have a fever. With pneumonia, you usually do have a fever, and the symptoms are pretty severe. So as people are walking around with pneumonia, they're easily able to transmit the virus from person to person. People that are ill should take extra caution, consider wearing a mask, safe social distancing, and wash your hands and wash surfaces, because that's how a lot of these viruses are spreading.
Yeah,
actually.
we learned that the importance of that during the COVID epidemic, but just really in the winter, since we're all crammed up together and the weather's rotten and we don't want to go out and walk and get our exercise, washing hands and wiping down surfaces, I imagine, are really important as we're in the cold months.
As it relates to new viruses, we're seeing this H5N1 really picking up in the country. It's pretty alarming, and pretty much every health department and every epidemiologist throughout the country is really watching for this.
Now, is that the bird flu?
Yes, it is. It's the bird flu, and we've seen it transmit into cows now, right? So, when a bird has this virus, the mortality rate is high. The birds end up dying, or they can't produce eggs, right? So we know those birds are sick, but we're seeing a really high transmission among cows and from cow to cow. And it's really hard to tell if the cow is sick or has the virus. And we're seeing that transmission because of transferring equipment from one cow to the next has also transmitted the virus. We do see, we have 76 cases in the country of H5N1 in people, right? So there is an alarm, that's kind of set off among all epidemiologists throughout the whole country, because this could easily be the next pandemic.
We have been hearing devastating news about these fires in Los Angeles. And we know that Los Angeles is the home to one of the largest urban Native communities. And what are the long-term impacts of these fires going to be on people's health?
What really you must be concerned about is the particulate matter in these fires. And these particulate matter are all different sizes. Smallberry fires has a certain size, raging fires has a certain size, and they also produce a lot of gases, right? All of this really impacts your respiratory system. So so it impacts people who have asthma, COPD, bronchitis, and even pneumonia, right? So these fires have that impact. Long-term impact is, increase in cardiorhythmia and heart failure and even stroke from these wildfires. So, it's really, you have to really protect yourself. Wear a mask is probably be the best protection. But the impact of wildfires, I mean, it gets everywhere. It can get in your home easily, even with proper ventilation. And the impacts can be devastating.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is the CDC has now issued a statement that alcohol is a cause of cancer, and that there's a push now to put warnings on booze bottles.
As we know in Indian country, alcohol is the real devil, right? And we're even finding that out more and more as we uncover issues around substance use disorder, addictions, and things that are really just devastating our community right now. The opioid epidemic, our populations in our communities really have suffered a tremendous amount of impact regarding this, from this convoluted history we have with the United States. And there's a lot of intergenerational trauma. And how do we act this out? Well, we act this out in numbing the pain. And that's why we have such high rates of substance use disorders in our communities. We need to heal from this. And, all efforts to have conferences and really bringing our community together to talk about healing, I'm all for it. And I will be the first to say, I'm not a saint. I am just like everybody else in the community, and I've had struggles with alcohol. Nothing else but, primarily alcohol. And I had to really go down deep inside, to address those struggles. Native people in our healing practices, we've always addressed the physical and the mental, the spiritual parts of healing. And I think we really need to go back to that, and really embrace our healing techniques that work for us. But also, talking with our elders and promoting and living a subsistence lifestyle. All of those things, if done right, promote our culture. And if you're living a traditional lifestyle, you really can't use substances because you have responsibilities in the community that you have to adhere to. Ceremony, making sure your family's well, making sure your community's well. All of these things are really, really important to good health and wellness.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.